judges can come or other teams and parents is where they'll see. So usually at the stall is what you present. For example, you have like a poster or like a standee where all your outreaches are there and how many funds you raise. That's yours? Okay.
Yeah, so that area is called the pit area. That's basically your team's hub, basic kind of like it's where you come. It's where you're normally at and easily located. So most of you guys will be sitting in the pit area. So there you'll have your posters, standees, or like whatever you want to decorate the place. Then you can hand out stuff. You can have 2-3 extra notebooks and portfolios to show about to talk about your team, and you can conduct activities or something to interact with the judges whenever they come over.
So basically, a stall has to be decorated so it attracts more people. Then on the same day, you have one of your practice matches. So there will be a total of two arenas. One is the practice field and one is the main field. So at the practice field, what you do is you go there and you sign up your name. And then there's a queue. You get about 5 minutes of practice time on the field. There will be 4 robots on the field at any given time. So you have to talk with the other person who's on the field as if you want to go to that side or this side. And then during those 5 minutes is when you test your autonomous and your teleop. Mostly it's autonomous because what you practice on this mat and what it's going to be on that mat is going to be different. So all of your degrees and all of your terms is going to change. So that is what you usually test there. You also have some practice matches where it will be on the main field, where it will be like mock matches where they'll score it and all, and they'll tell you what is a penalty, what is not, what can be done and what cannot be done. So that is what day 1 is usually. Then moving on to day 2, when you come, you'll be given a slot as to when is your presentation. So in that interview,
not presentation.
interview, you usually go into a room where you'll have about 3 to 4 judges, and over there you provide them with your portfolio and your engineering notebook, and then it's like a question and answer where they'll ask you questions like, okay, what is unique in your robot, or how was it difficult to raise funds, or how did you uplift the STEM community, etc. etc. You'd be asked all of these questions and then you're supposed to answer. So it's about 5 to 10 minutes that it lasts. And then after that you have your qualifications match. Qualification matches are basically you play 7, right?
5 matches.
5. 7.
It depends on the number of teams.
Usually it's 5 to 7 matches is what you play, where you would have random alliances. They'll give you an entire sheet as to when is your match and who's your alliance and who's your opponents. So what you do is usually go to the alliance. For example, if I have match 1 with you guys, so what I do is you'd come to me or I'd come to you guys, and then we discuss strategy as to what do you guys do in autonomous, what do we do in autonomous. We do that so we don't clash into each other during the autonomous. For example, if you're going to the left and you and I'm going to the left, we would end up clashing and would get not a lot of points. Yeah.
But if the opposite team has the same strategy as you, then you also crash, right?
So you can't do anything about the opposite side.
So there is a way of it. So if you have a really good robot and you are sure that you are scoring, so it will show up on your face with the confidence, right? You will go and you will be confident that this is what we can do and we can do it with 100% accuracy. So you won't change anything. The alliance what you have, you ask them to change their program or you help them to change their program. This is how we do it.
So it's a lot of compromisation that takes place. So if you guys, for example, in autonomous cycle, say 6 cones, and the other team, your alliance, cycles about 3 cones. So then you tell them like, this side is mine. If you want, you can go and cycle on that side and make sure to park, because parking has 20 points if you guys know. And then you also talk to the other team as to what's going to happen during teleop. As in, would you be the one who's completing the circuit or would you be the one who's cycling? So according to that you plan, and then you have the actual match. So the actual match is about 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
2.5.
2.5 minutes. Sorry. 2.5 minutes where you have 30 seconds of autonomous, 1.5 minute of teleop, and then 30 seconds of endgame. So in that, you guys know how that works, right? So after that, you can't touch the robot because they would be scoring, and you cannot enter the playfield as well. You enter, you get disqualified. There's also something known as penalties. So in this year, the penalties are added to the other team's total points. instead of being deducted from yours. So the more penalties you guys take, the more scores the other teams get. So basic penalties like you can't have more than two cones in your one cone in your oven. So if you're holding two, that is a penalty.
And like it's like time based. So if you hold it for like 20 seconds, then how much it will be for 1 second? It will keep on getting multiplied. So if it's stuck into your mechanism, like over here, sometimes when you take the cup up, and then you like grab it and place it inside. Then the cone's stuck over there, right? And you can't come it and take it out on your own. So it'll be a constant loop of penalty, and the other team will keep on getting more and more points.
So then at the end of the day, you would get to know who's ranked. So the first 4 teams on the leaderboard are the alliance captains, and then that's day 3. No? Moves on. Day 3 is when you have your selections. So selections is basically the 4 alliance captains would be at the center, and you pick 2 alliances. So if we 4 are the alliance captains, Kabir would pick an alliance, then it would be me, then Ayan, then Shaunak. And then again it would be Kabir, me, him and him. So that way you pick alliances. So how do you pick alliances?
Yeah, so of course there's going to be someone on the team that you need to decide. At least 3 people I would suggest who need to be a part of a scouting team. So on top of your roles, every single team, including yourself, you need to give like an initial rating, just what the robot looks like. Is it sturdy? Is it weak? What can they do? How many points can they score in autonomous? Are they parking in the first position or the second position? Where are they starting? What path are they taking, especially in autonomous? Then also tele-op capabilities. How many cones can they score? Can they score cones? Because that's a question. If you have an okay alliance member, then the question is that can they score cones? Can they score at the highest, medium, or lowest? Can they score ground junctions? So scoring details, sturdiness, speed, strategy, all of these you'll have to quantify and then make into a list of every single team in the tournament. You'll have one person out of this team of three scouts. One person sits near the playfield where they're looking, it's like a visual cue, you're looking how they play. Are they able to cooperate with their other alliance? So you're just observing how the play style. You need to write all of that down. You need to quantify it. You need to translate that information into numbers. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well were the drivers communicating? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well were they communicating with the other team? Information like that. And then 2 people, so 1 person sitting at the playfield, or 2, any number is fine, but I would suggest at least 1 to 2 so you have an idea of what's going on. Then 2 people are going throughout the entire pit area, talking to every single team. So I would suggest this is how you go about. Let's say Kavish is the team I want to ask about. So I'll start with looking at the robot, from like the sides. I won't just stand there and start staring. You look at it from the sides, you keep walking left to right, you just like look at it in a very stealthy way. And then once you get a good idea, you start asking questions. So Kavish, how many coins can your robot place in? Tell you X number. What position do you park in? This. Does this work in your robot? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. How is it working? Is it working well? Is it consistent? Is it accurate? Remember one thing, teams will lie to you. And that's something you'll have to learn as well. When people ask you, do not reveal every single detail to them. Let's say if I ask you, how many cones does your robot place in Talia? Then you don't say the exact number what you placed.
You give them a range.
Yeah, you give them a range. That it's about 7 to 10. It's about 6 to 10 depending on how the cones are. It's 6 to 10, 6 to 10. So don't give exact details. Once you give exact details, people will form an exact image about you. But your job is to form an exact image about other teams. So remember that. Without giving away too much information about yourself, get information. If required, you can do a trade of information. If someone's very, very reluctant to reveal details, and it's a good team, these guys are good competition, like they might defeat us. And if they're not going to give information, you can do something that's like an information trade. That okay, I'll tell you something about my team. Just give me a few details. Then again, don't reveal everything. Some details about your robot you keep a secret. Secret as in not you don't talk about it. You talk about it, just not the exact number, not the exact strategy. That's pretty much what scouting is. So 1 to 2 people at the playfields, 1 to 2 people going through the pits. Another thing you have to keep in mind is to like sort of like downplay the role of exaggeration in scouting. You listen to what they answer to other people. So keep moving around the pit area. Keep your ears wide open. If someone told you that I placed 10 cones, and then you have someone else behind you who's going to ask the same question, go away, but make sure you can still hear them, and then listen to the answer they give to the other scout, some other team scout. If it's the same answer, then you can sort of conclude that, okay, they're sticking to us the same number of cones for every team. They're not necessarily scoring that many, they're just saying the same number of cones, they're telling the same number of cones to every team. But as soon as it gets different, there are either 2 options. One, they're very smart and they give you the number of cones they score based on how they assess you as a threat, or they're just throwing random numbers at you to throw you off. So that's basically scouting.
So basically whatever, like when you do scouting, there are 2 types of scoutings. One is like you go to each and every team's pit, where you go and talk to people, okay, and you get to know more about from the team, like what is the robot that they have.
Basically what the team wants you to think of them as,
Yeah.
and then that is what you think of the team as, from the robot team.
So basically what that robot is capable of doing it, okay. Now on paper, let's say these 2 boys are going to go to each and every team, and on paper they're going to write it down, right? So other 2 members who are going to sit next to the match area, they will re-verify things. Like for example, Kabir told these 2 boys that he is scoring 10 cones, and Kabir said he is scoring 15 cones, right? So now it is, the information is with them, the data is with them. It is now his duty to sit back at the arena and watch both of their matches, right? And when you watch the matches, you can verify, like some glitch happened and that's why he could score 4 and he said 10. So obviously, ये नहीं करने वाला था 10 कभी भी, right? Some glitch happened, he scored 14 instead of 15. Obviously, he has a capability of doing it. That is how you re-verify information. ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब जाके बोल रहे whatever he said कि मतलब बताओ मत and all that is true, but when you have to say and what you have to say is something that you have to decide, right? You are done with all the matches. I'm just taking an example. You are done with all the matches. You are not in top 4, and still you are resistant कि हम कुछ reveal नहीं करेंगे. That's a wrong strategy. Once you know that who are the 4 top members, you just run behind them and उनको अपना robot run करके दिखाओ कि this is what we are doing and we are capable of. But before telling them, you should be aware about their robot. मतलब whoever is in top 4, उसका सब कुछ आपको पता होना चाहिए, right? So there will be a missing link, right? कि जैसे एक टीम है सिग्मा, वो ये चीज़ें करती है, but एक कोई particular चीज़ है जो सिग्मा नहीं कर पाता है. For example, सिग्मा is good at stacking cones और उनसे सर्किट नहीं बनता है. सर्किट पता है ना आप लोगों को सब? हाँ, so they are not capable of making circuits. That is their drawback, and that is what you guys observe, and that is where you are capable of. Your robot is capable of. That's how you trade. You got it? So this is why scouting is very important. Why this data is important. This is the reason behind it. So once you are done with the all qualification matches, you can pay attention here. People will come and go. Look at me right now. So once you are done with scouting and you are not in top 4, this is your task to, and you should have information about top 4 teams. If you are in top 4 teams, you have got a double task to do, because you are in top 4 and you have got 50 more teams from where you have to choose only 2 teams, right? So choosing a right alliance is another task, right? So that is where you should have a proper data. And being in first, like see, when we were in the first year of FTC, we never had such guidance, right? So you are fortunate that your parents are so involved in this. All of your parents, I saw this over the last 3 days I'm seeing it, right? All your parents are also equally involved the way you guys are. So you are really fortunate, and you're getting information from these guys who have experience, right? So make sure that obviously we all will be there, but not every match we can come and talk to you, right? Because these kids will be also doing their strategy, their work. So together we can work. It's not like that, but still you have to be independent at some time. Next year these boys will not be there because they will not be eligible, right? So then what? So you have to be independent at some point. So let's start from today itself. Let's be independent. So make these strategies on your own from today itself. There are like 14 students, right? So it should not happen like लगान का टीम, वो एक बॉल एक साइड गया तो पूरा टीम उसके पीछे पीछे भाग बॉल पकड़ने के लिए, ऐसा नहीं. You should have your plans, your responsibilities divided and you should stick to it. उसमें ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए अरे ये मुझे प्रोग्रामिंग करने मिलता ही नहीं है, जब देखो मुझे कोनी उठा के रखने के लिए बोलते हैं, रोबोट ही प्लेस करने के लिए बोलते हैं. It is equally important, right? Because programmers cannot say तू तो रोबोट ही प्लेस करता है यार, उसमें क्या है करना. No, अगर उसने नहीं किया तो तेरा काम नहीं होगा fast, right? Because he is just giving an example. Because he is placing the robot, programmers are saving their time, right? Otherwise they would need to get up, place their robot, and then they will need to run the code, observe. So that is how you distribute your tasks. So once your tasks are distributed, stick to that. Competition में जाके again giving example, he is supposed to do the scouting और यही scouting नहीं कर रहा है, ये इधर उधर घूम रहा है. So that is not something which is acceptable, right? Because either you will be in top 4 or you will be in bottom, like not bottom but 5th to onwards, right? तो अगर आप नीचे हो तो you have to go to a perfect team with whom you can alliance for the rest of the semi-finals and finals. If you are in top 4, then आपका task बहुत, believe me, हम लोग कभी भी top 4 में नहीं थे. It was always easier for us to pick a team with whom we can be alliance. Last year it was so difficult to choose alliance because everybody was coming to us and saying take us as an alliance, take us as an alliance. So it was really difficult. It was really difficult for us to choose an alliance, right? So whatever data you will have, you have to keep it properly with you, and then you open your cards once you're done. Now you play 5 matches, okay? This is very important, please remember this. If you are playing 6 matches, like the schedule that you get, you will see that Lego Axiom has 6 matches, okay? And all other teams have 5 matches. So one match that you play is not counted in your score, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And that one particular match, on that sheet next to your team number there will be a star mark, okay? And there is a particular term for that match that I am not going to tell you right now. It's all written in the engineering notebook. So please go through engineering notebook and find out what is that term.
Game manual.
Sorry, my bad. Game manual. All of you know that there are 2 game manuals.
Yes.
Game manual 1 is all about. Why are you guys answering? Wait.
Game elements.
And scoring.
And what is about, like, what is the game manual 2 all about? There are 2 manuals. All of you agree that? Yes. Part 1, part 2. So what is the part 1 about? And what is part 2 about? Why they have 2 different manuals?
Part 2 is how you will be judged.
Okay.
Criteria.
Okay. It's okay. You are open to answer. Anybody can answer.
And first one is game
Part 2
elements.
also has game, like elements.
Now you both are contradicting your answers. He is saying part 1 is about game scores and all. You are saying part 2 is about game manual. Have you guys really read the entire notebook? Manual, sorry. Manual. There are 135 pages that you have to read. Okay, I might be wrong also, but I know that one book has 66 pages and another has some 50 to 70 pages. Part 1 is a book which talks about the entire event. What is FTC? How the competition is held. Okay. Part 1 talks about that. Part 2 is related to this year's challenge. So part 1 will not change a lot over the period of years, but part 2 will change every year because it's related to this year's challenge. Okay, and that is where those who were sitting with me, we saw that where to start our robot in the autonomous journey, if you remember, path and all, right? Then we saw the positioning also. So all of that is given with images, with measurements. So it's like Bhagavad Gita for us. If you are doing FTC, you should know everything. Okay, so that is how it is. So now, yes, Ayan can continue if he wants to. Otherwise, he has got. He is done.
Okay, so once your alliance selection is done, then you have your matches, your semi-finals and finals. Now these matches are best out of 3. So if I win one and if you win one, then we'll play one more. But if I win both of the matches, then we don't play the third one. Once you pick your alliance, for example, if I'm alliance captain and I pick you guys and I pick another team, and say I play the first match with you guys as my alliance, and I play the second match also with you guys. But if I lose the first one and if I lose the second one, and if I'm playing the third one, then I can't pick you guys as an alliance. I will have to pick the second alliance to play with me. So that is where strategy comes into place. As if, so out of the both alliances, you obviously have first preference and second preference. You would want to play with the first preference because that's why you selected them before the other one. So that is when strategy comes into place, as if you want to play with them back to back or if you want to play with another alliance as well. And then after the finals and semi-finals and finals, then there's closing ceremony, award ceremony, and then you can leave.
Remember one thing. Initially, you might think that you want to do practice as much as possible. Keep it that way, but remember to keep your batteries charged. Because if you practice went amazing, practice went very well, both your batteries are down, you go to play the match, won't work out very well. So, yes, practice, but keep an eye on your batteries at all times.
So there's also something known as surprise visits, where judges would just come to your pit and would ask you questions. These are usually related to the questions and answers that happened on day 2. Those judges can come on day 2 or they can come on day 3. So there have to be a set of people on the pit area who know something about programming, construction, fundraising and outreach, so that they're able to answer the questions that the judges ask. Because if you aren't able to answer those questions, then it would contradict to the statements that you made in the judge's presentation. Also, you need, this is related to robot game, you need a team that focuses on maintenance. So after every practice run or after every match, you make sure to tighten most of the moving parts. For example, you saw all of the screws were falling out, right? So you need to be able to figure out where are the screws falling from. Because if you don't know and while you're running in a match and if your entire slide just falls off, then what is the point of all of the hard work that you've done? So there has to be a fixed sort of team who does the entire maintenance of the robot. All the way from the wheels to the slides to the rope to the wires. You need to make sure that everything is in place and how it is supposed to be. You would also reach a point where you have to help your alliance, because in the championship there are a few teams who have the bare minimum robot, and sometimes they do face issues as if their motor's not working or if they don't know a certain set of programming or if they're not parking. So you want to score maximum points, right? Because whatever the alliance scores and what you score adds up. So you want the most number of points. So that way you also need a team which is specifically there for the alliance if they need help with coding or construction or a few set of skills that they need. So your team is entirely broken down into somebody who's there in queue for practice, somebody who's with the robot all the time, that is usually the maintenance team. Then you have your drivers and you have your fundraising, outreach and document people who are usually on the pit, as well as 1 or 2 people from the robot game. Apart from that, as Ayan said, you have your scouting team as well, who will be roaming on day 1, 2 and 3.
Roaming does not mean time pass. Let's put that down.
Yeah.
So when he says roaming, it means you are talking to everyone. You are allowed to look, but you are not. No breaks are allowed. You can take breaks every hour, but every 10 minutes, okay, I'm tired, I need to sit. That's not. You cannot do that. Your eyes need to be on everyone's robots. You need to be looking which team is strong, which team is not strong, which team is doing well, which team, if we end up in an alliance with this team, then what will we do? What will we strategize? So you're gonna obviously have your list of your opponents and your alliance members. I think on the first day you get your schedule.
First or second.
Yeah, so you get your schedule really early. You start talking to two teams, your first match and second match. After that, people will not want to talk about it because it's quite a bit in the future. But make sure that your next two matches, you're already talking to your next two alliances about your strategy and what you want to do.
You have to be prepared for each match. You keep on talking. You see, for example, if your sixth match is with a robot that is not even standing, so a few set of people will go there and help them make the robot. So you have to make sure that all of your alliances are prepared for the matches that you're going to play. Usually, most of your alliances would be a bare minimum robot, but you would be having one or two alliances who are as good as you guys or maybe better. So those matches is something where you don't give a lot of help to them because they can satisfy all of by themselves. Whereas you help the teams that need your help as in alliances. Another thing is that at the pit area, you want all of your important things at the table, like your portfolios, your notebooks, and if you have any pamphlets or something that you can give out to other teams and alliances especially. For example, you can have a pamphlet that says, okay, I put these many cones in autonomous, these many in teleop, and this is what I do in endgame. This is what I'm flexible to do, here's my robot, and here are the keywords. So something like that.
So you can have your strategy on the pamphlet, some of that strategy, so that instead of everybody having to explain to every single person, you can explain some of it and then give them the pamphlet that here are some of the details, so they can refer to it if they're not writing it down. It's just a plus point for you. And of course, one more thing that I'd like to add is avoid altercations, as in arguments, avoid fights, avoid any sort of rash behavior towards a team or a person. It has happened before. If your robot bangs into another robot, if their robot is damaged, because that's possible, then you help them. No blaming, it happened because of you, it happened because of you. Say sorry, help them out, move on. Remember to take in I think the game video as well. Your alliance in one match can be your opponent in the other. Your opponent in your first match can be your alliance in the second. So make sure you're not making enemies. You're staying neutral with the teams.
You would also have judges who would be roaming all over to see your behavior. So don't play the blame game as if the robot didn't work or if autonomous didn't work. Don't blame it on the programmers. I mean, it's not their fault. So whatever happens, have a calm discussion. Do not argue within the team, because if you argue within the team and if somebody else sees it, then they would know that you guys have no coordination within the team. What sort of coordination would you be showing with some other team? Because after all, your entire preparation just boils down to 3 days to show whatever you've done and to do your best.
Yeah, so moving on to documentation. So we just spoke about construction, programming, and obviously you have outreach and fundraising. All of this is compiled into two parts of your documentation, which is an engineering notebook and an engineering portfolio. So as Kavish mentioned, it's going to be usually spread out on the table in front of you in your pit, your engineering notebook, or engineering portfolio. So actually you're supposed to hand in your engineering portfolio when you enter, and you'll be getting it at the end. So that's why you should keep an extra copy of your engineering portfolio on your table with you in case you need to show it to anybody, or as Kavish said, surprise visits by the judges. So now, if I'm not wrong, you guys are well known about your engineering notebook. It's basically a notebook showing your progress and your journey throughout your FTC season. And it's compiled of the hardware, software, outreach, and a little bit of the funds you've raised and how you've utilized these funds. So there is no limit on your engineering notebook as such. However, you have an engineering portfolio which should not exceed 15 pages with an extra page of a cover page, making it 16. So your engineering portfolio has to be concise. So one tip is it should be in bullet points. It should show sketches of your robots, team discussions, team meetings, and most importantly, it should show a summary of what all you've done, your hardware, software, and outreach programs. So the engineering portfolio is like the tip of the iceberg. So when the judges read your engineering portfolio, they should be more intrigued in reading the engineering notebook. So your engineering portfolio is like a CV or a team resume, which you have there. So as I said, it should be consisted of logging of your journey, and the judges don't expect perfection at the first try. So obviously, you need to show where you've gone wrong, your first draft of the robot, iterations of the robot, and also what went wrong in the first place, how you solved that problem, because the judges don't want to see the final product, they want to see how you reach that final product, the challenges you face, the obstacles you overcome. So that's about the engineering portfolio. It's basically concise and it's a summary of the engineering notebook. The engineering notebook, on the other hand, so supposedly the judge should read your engineering notebook and should come to know everything about your team. So if they don't know your team, if they're not well versed at all with what your team is, reading the engineering notebook would give them just a rough idea, an image of what your team is and the personality of your team. In the engineering portfolio and your notebook, you'll have to give some essence of anything related to the team information and the personality of your team, how your team is. You also would have to write your individual goals and plans of the team in the engineering notebook and the portfolio. So again, the judges have an idea of what you are now and what were you before and what were you during the process of this FTC journey. So yeah, that's your engineering notebook in your portfolio. If there are any questions, you can go ahead.
You guys have questions?
Was too much of information.
Yeah, I think they look sleepy, I guess. थोड़ा उठाओ उनको.
One more to a list of every single team in the tournament. You'll have one person out of this team of three scouts. One person sits near the playfield where they're looking. It's like a visual cue. You're looking how they play. Are they able to cooperate with their other alliance? So you're just observing how the play style. Count as well. You need to have a rough idea how many coins were placed, how many fell over, how many penalties you think you got, and if that rough idea matches up with what's there on the scoring sheet, then you just sign it, whatever is there.
And basically they don't score you immediately. So it's a score sheet where they write the count. Like in autonomous, I'm sure whether you are aware about it or not. In autonomous, if you put 2 cones in your highest pole, right, the highest junction, right, so when your autonomous ends, the same 2 cones will be counted for teleop also. So when you put 2 cones, you get points for 4 cones. Okay, so keep this in mind. Whatever you do in autonomous, whatever number of cones are there in autonomous, all number of cones will be added into your teleop. So in autonomous, if you are putting 2 and you are putting 10 in teleop, your total of teleop is 12 and autonomous is 2. Okay, I hope you have understood this. So basically cone के points double हो जाते सीधा. हाँ, autonomous end होता है, so it gets double because that is counted in teleop again. Right? मतलब पहले autonomous में 12 points मिला 2 कोन का, जैसे teleop start हुआ तो आप लोगों ने अगर 12 points score किया है, immediately it will become 24, and then your match will start again. Okay? So this is very important, and they will not write a number, perfect score. They will not write. They will just write कितने कोन डाले, highest pole 10 cones, middle junction 5 cones, lower junction 2 cones, ground junction 1 cone. Autonomous में they will write parking done, yes it is done. Like that they will do. They will not write parking का 20 points. They will not write. They will just do tick marks or numbers. That's it. You will get to know your score once the next match is completely done. You got it? So you played first match, and for your score you have to wait until the second match is over. So you get to know when your third match starts. That's how it goes. Yes, Sayan. Anything else?
There's one thing which so don't keep your engineering portfolio notebook on the back burner, because they will make you eligible for many awards. The portfolio, especially your Think Award. So there are certain criteria which you're supposed to keep in your engineering portfolio, which will make you eligible for several awards. It's in the game manual itself, the first part towards the end of the game manual. Also, each and every person, it's written in the criteria for engineering notebook. Each and every member of the team has to contribute a little part in the engineering notebook. So that's a rule.
You should know everything about your robot. This is basically the interview aspect I'm telling you. You all like not sure who will have done FLL or not. You don't cut each other. Like for example, the question is asked to him. He is not aware about anything about fundraising and community. Example. Okay, he's only aware about programming, right? So he will give 2 to 3 lines of answer related to fundraising, but he will direct, he would like to give more answer, more clarification or more explanation on the fundraising and outreach, as I was the part of programming team or robot construction team. But he will not directly cut him. Like जैसे ने पूछा और बोला सर इसको नहीं आता मैं बताता हूँ. This is not something you should do.
It's okay to admit that you don't know as much as you know in some other field. It's better than lying about the information.
Yes, but at least 2 lines you can tell, right?
Basic
He is not aware about fundraising, but he knows what. I know it's a lot of information. Any questions?
So what if while you're putting the cone in the bowl and what if the cone falls down? Then will there be like any
No.
You can pick up the cone and put it again.
You can pick up if you have a facility or capability of doing that. A sleeping cone कैसे pick up करेंगे?
Yeah.
You can do that and nothing like it. Good.
No, I mean if it falls on the floor.
On the
Outside.
outside
No,
again.
like in the
In the-
mat.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
That's fine.
you can pick it up
So
and
the
drop
only
it.
penalties you have is when you have more than one cone on your robot, if you're hitting another robot, or if you're blocking a specific pole, or if your robot is throwing parts outside the maze.
What do you mean blocking a specific pole?
So for example, if I'm
So
trying
like
to
if-
score the high pole, and your arm is there at the high pole, just holding the pole and not letting me score, that's blocking. That's not allowed. But if you're scoring, that is allowed. But if
your
you're
arm
not,
cannot just
Yeah.
be there like blocking my scoring attempt.
Like blocking away or something. Kabir, you want to add something?
Yeah, basically that it shouldn't just be on one pole. That's basically it.
And you cannot block specific area.
Like
also.
how there's the goalkeeper in football. You can't just stay there. You have to go out and do other stuff.
you also cannot block a robot that's moving. So if I'm trying to make a circuit, and if I'm going somewhere, you can't block me. You can move here and there, but you cannot.
You can't
If I'm moving to the right, you can't move right with me. And if I'm moving to the left, you cannot
Like
move
once
left
it
with
is fine, but purposely you
Intentionally,
can't.
yeah.
Intentionally you can't do it.
And judges are experienced, they will know once you're doing it intentionally, and once you do it intentionally, you'll be penalized heavily.
So, for example, let's say I'm throwing a cone at the high juncture, but it falls down and I can't pick it up for some reason, if not unfortunately. And let's say that there's the opposite team, let's say they've almost formed a circuit and they want to put the cone. So, are they allowed to like push my
Yes.
cone aside?
Yes.
Oh, that's only related to the ground junction. If your cone on the ground junction is tilted and not upright position, you can push that cone away. That is allowed. But if that cone is upright and if it's in the place, you cannot push the cone away. That's a penalty. You would not get points for the circuit.
One more doubt. That was, let's say there are matches going on.
Yeah.
Let's say my match is finished and I want to do a bit of scouting. So can I go and see their personal match that is going on? Am I allowed to do that?
That is what you're supposed to do.
It's a public thing.
But I'm allowed to see their match.
It's a stadium.
It's so you
But from a distance.
it's a stadium, yeah, you can see it straight in the
Yeah, so
stands.
to tell you, for example, if this is the stadium, if this entire tile is the stadium, your entire right side would be chairs. Your
Both
entire
sides.
Like as in like
Yeah,
proper
right.
stadium
Yeah,
chairs,
right,
not
left.
like a flat area, like actual
Oh.
stands, bleachers.
How many of you watched Pro Kabaddi League?
yes.
Everybody is watched, right? Kabaddi League तो देखा ना? It's the same
Kabaddi,
stadium.
badminton.
It's the same stadium.
This is that.
Balewadi Stadium is built for Commonwealth Games. So you will have those stairs going upwards and then you can sit and see.
Okay, so now let's say I'm blocking a junction.
Yeah.
My points get deducted every second I
Your
block.
points don't get
Sorry,
deducted.
they get points every second I block or some other stuff?
No. So there's a certain set of times. The first time they would let it go, you would get a warning actually. The second time is also warning, then from the third time it's a penalty. But if you're standing there, then you straight on keep on getting penalties. The timing depends on the referee. The increments would keep on reducing as to the number of penalties. So there's one scoring referee per team. So there'll be 4 scoring referees and there'll be 1 head referee at the field.
One will be particularly for your robot. He will be like he or she will be watching your robot game in autonomous and tell you.
What if your cone gets lost on the top of a pole and doesn't fall down? And
So you don't get points for that, but you can push it in. That's
yeah, you have to do something, then it goes down. Like
but
that.
what if you can't? Like it just.
Then you don't get points
Then
for
you
that.
don't get.
Does it get counted as a penalty for blocking?
No, it
the
does
pole?
not get. It does not count as a penalty.
See, in India, we are not sure
In the US, it does not count.
because they change
Yeah.
few rules according to their comfort zone.
Yeah,
And it's written they are allowed to change, so you can't fight
If the
also.
robot clashes with another one.
that's allowed.
That's allowed, but not again
Intentional.
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 So like you're coming this way and I just rammed you, that's not fair.
That is
But if the
intentional.
both of them are coming this way and you're like not even sure of that or anything, then yeah.
So, but then what happens? All the pieces just get.
No, it will not break like that.
It does not break.
It's not a robot fight.
Yeah.
What happens if the alliance?
I see.
That's a nice.
What if the alliance robot it stops working in the?
You can't
It's
do
not
anything.
that you can't do
So
anything.
see, once you start the code, you cannot touch it. In teleop you can, but in autonomous you can.
In teleop also you can't do for their robot if it is not
Yeah.
working. It's your game. You have to do whatever you can
See,
do.
at the end of the day, you're the one who's trying to be the alliance captain. So you have to focus on your robot in the game area. If you're the driver, you don't look at what other people are doing on the robot. You look at what your robot is doing.
And over there, your emotions will be heightened, you'll have high adrenaline. So if someone shouts at you to do something, don't feel offended. It's probably just because they're feeling very nervous, very excited. So make sure, and also drivers, make sure you hear each other, because make sure you talk. Once one person says, okay, shoot, or in position to place, only then will the person placing the cone will place. Because it happened yesterday. Many times before the robot was in position, the person decided it was fine, so the driver placed it. So make sure you're communicating with each other.
And what if, like how he said, if some opponent's robot is shut down in between the and if it is blocking,
No, they remove the robot.
referees can remove or we need to drag it.
No.
No.
Referees will remove the robot.
But a penalty?
It will be a penalty.
It will be a penalty. If it's blocking like a major like section, like let's say if it's
So you have
blocking.
to
ऐसे होता नहीं अभी तक कभी ऐसा हुआ नहीं किसी का robot बंद हो गया but
So you
referees will remove the robot.
You have 3 penalties. One's a major, one's a minor, and one's a disqualification.
Sorry?
You can again test the robot.
No. Once it's out,
Later
it's
you
out.
can't place it. Once it's outside the playfield you can't place it.
So you've got minor penalties, major penalties, and then you've got disqualification. Minor penalties would be something like
15.
15.
Last year it was 15.
Like you take another cone in your robot by mistake. The first time it would be a minor. Second time also should be a minor, but depends on the referee. Then they would give you a major penalty. If that keeps on happening, then you get disqualified.
But wouldn't the first time you wouldn't get like a warning?
First time is a
First time is a warning, then you have your penalties. Yeah.
So scoring enemy cones counts as a.
They would get the point.
They will get the point. There is
Why
no
would
penalty.
pick
You
up
won't
the
get
cone
the
in the first
No,
place?
because if the cone hangs on top and then
Yes, you can remove that.
You can remove that.
See, those are such questions that you ask on day one.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
there's an entire
See,
drivers
driver
meeting,
there'll be
Yeah,
drivers
there
meeting.
where
will be
all the
drivers
drivers
meeting.
ask such questions, like the questions you've asked, is what they'll ask that.
Even we will ask the
Yeah.
judges because we
Because
don't know
it's,
the
in
exact-
India they won't follow exact rules written in the book.
Yeah.
Modifications are always allowed. It's written in the notebook that national organizers will modify the rules according to their
another
comfort.
junction, but by
It's
mistake my robot pushes the cone
Your
and
own
falls
cone.
out.
Yeah, it's
my own
open.
cone.
Anybody else can also place, or you can place.
Then
it.
there's no penalty if you push your own cone
Yeah.
off. If you touch their cone, if you move their cone, that's a penalty off the ground.
But if it falls, can I go take that similar one?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
put it back?
Yeah, as long as you can pick it up.
So I have another question down. Like over there we have a alliance based format. So what if in our alliance, what if a person placed a ground junction and we took our robot and removed the ground junction?
when you're in an alliance, it counts as one team. You are one team, penalties apply to the total score. Then you can't say, I mean, you can say, but there's no point. If let's say one person can't, like let's say if you're wearing an alliance, your team does a penalty, you hit red alliance's ground chances or blue alliance. The penalty applies not to Shauna, it applies to blue alliance. So remember that. Afterwards you can say uski wajah se was like within your team, but then the penalty was applied to both of us. There's nothing else. And then remember one thing, once you have a yellow card, like you're yellow carded for major penalties and then disqualifications and red cards. Once you get a yellow card, when people start seeing that on their list, red yellow. Red is disqualification, yellow is warning. So once you get a yellow card, there'll be just like football. But then there'll be a screen where you have all the teams' rankings and their scores, and like there's certain other ways of scoring points, or for the tiebreak points. There'll be cards right next to them, so you'll see a yellow card next to it. So once you have a yellow card